Gentlemen, it's me, Jim Kincaid, and I am comparing two watches today, the Mudman, G-Shock Mudman, GW-9500 here in my left hand, and then my right hand is the Casio ProTrek PRW-3500. And the story of these two watches are intertwined, and I think it's a really interesting comparison. When we go through it, you'll see what I mean. But when you think of Casio as you know, a big company, they have different brands. And think of like GM. GM is Chevy, GM has GMC, and GM has Cadillac. And a lot of times they take the exact same car and had different trim packages. It's the same car, but they call it different things. You know, like the Chevy Tahoe. You dress up the Chevy Tahoe a little bit, make it better, and you make it cost more, and then you call it the GMC Yukon Denali, right? Or you take the Chevy Nova, dress it up a little bit, and call it the Cadillac CTX. Or, you know, you take the Chrysler would take the Dodge Caravan, put leather seats in it, and call it the Chrysler Town and Country. Okay, so what Casio has done is take some modules, and the modules like the inside of the watch. They've taken the modules out of their ProTreks and put it into the case of a G-Shock, and you know, make it more durable, and obviously make it more expensive. But the module's the same, and this is the Mudmaster, not to be confused with this watch, right? This watch is the Mudman, but the analog G-Shock watch that has all of this mud resist and all of these features is called the Mudmaster. It's an analog watch, but the module inside of it is taken like right out of the analog watches of the ProTrek line, the Casio ProTrek line. And so I think there's some YouTubers who've like gone button by button and even removed them from the case to show you that, you know, except for a little bit of paint, they're exactly the same. And so it's a really, really interesting to see that. And all of us in G-Shock land have been wondering when Casio is going to take the digital module out of a ProTrek and put it into a G-Shock body. And finally, in the current year, the year of our Lord 2023, they finally did that with the Mudman, which is this watch. Okay, the module in here is very, very close to the digital modules in the ProTrek line, with functionally the same, like button by button the same. And we'll go through it with these two watches. There's a little bit of difference that we'll get into, some frustrating differences that between the Mudman and this ProTrek, right? And one good thing about this particular ProTrek is that in keeping with that strategy of having like one car that's, you know, a budget car like a Chevy, like you don't want it to be as good as your high-end Cadillac, you know, if you're GM, right? Well, some of you guys may be in Toyota land. Toyota might be a better example. You know, like Lexus is a nice Toyota, right? But sometimes if you get like, I don't know, a Toyota Corolla with a top of the line package, it's kind of like a stealth Lexus, all right? And like that's what's happened with this Casio ProTrek 3500, okay? One of the ways Casio differentiates between ProTrek and G-Shock is that they don't make the ProTrek as durable as a G-Shock. So most ProTreks only have 100 meters of water resistance, but all G-Shocks have 200 meters of water resistance, right? This Casio ProTrek PRW-3500 is an anomaly because this one does have 200 meters of water resistance. Let me use my pointer pen, which is the Zebra X701, and you point right here where it says 20 bar. That's 200 meters of water resistance. And this is a pretty durable watch, and it feels very sturdy to me, and it has screwed in band. So This is like a nice Toyota reaching Lexus specs, or a nice Chevy meeting Cadillac specs, right? It's kind of jumped up, in quality, and it on Amazon only costs $208. I found an Amazon link. I bought it for $112 off of eBay. I bought it used, but it was in very good condition, with a box and everything. So you can get into a pretty rugged Casio ProTrek watch that's approaching G-Shock specs in terms of durability. And honestly, like, without having tested it too vigorously, I think that this is as durable as a G-Shock watch that you could buy at Walmart. Some of their entry-level G-Shocks. Obviously not as durable as the Mudman. The Mudman may be the most durable watch on the planet. I am in the process of testing this. I've subjected this Mudman to, I've dunked it in diesel, dunked it in used motor oil, and abused it. A cat headbutted it. So, I mean, it's been through a lot, and the buttons still press, and it's a really durable watch. $380, right? So this might be a good alternative if you wanted the ABC functions. And so let's get into more of a comparison. Okay, so both of these, you hold down the bottom left button, you're going to return to the main time screen. Okay, so let's just look at the main time screen, compare and contrast. Okay, so when you're looking at the ProTrek, the numbers are thicker, way more clarity to the screen, and it's pretty crisp. Okay, when you look at the Mudman, at similar angles, it's hazier, right? And there's certain spots where you kind of lose visibility. And that's the problem with the Mudman. The main problem, in my opinion, is that there's legibility issues. There can be a lot of glare and a lot of like cancellation, I think, from the polarization. And there was a commenter in my last video where I compared this Mudman to the Casio AE-1500, and it was Gary K, and he wrote, "I think the duplex display on the GW-9500 is the main reason for the lack of LCD contrast compared to the PRW-3500 and AE-1500, right? Because the ProTrek PRW-3500 made a cameo appearance in my last video, right? So I think that Gary K is correct, that you have the duplex screen and on there, which is going to detract from some of the clarity because there's more plastic for the light to go through. There's more surfaces for the light to refract. And also, I'm pretty sure that there's a whole nother layer of plastic that goes over the top of the duplex LCDs. So there's just so much plastic for the light to go through and so many surfaces to refract on. And the fact that LCD light is polarized, there's a lot of factors contributing to poor legibility on the Mudman. And those factors aren't here on the ProTrek PRW-3500. That's why I think it's a good budget alternative to the Mudman. Obviously, it doesn't have the mud resist, so mud resist keeps filth from getting inside the buttons. However, looking at these buttons, it has this waffling on it, which is really good for grip because you can press it with your fingernail. And that's not the case on the Mudman. The Mudman has this new design. It's like a triangular kind of radioactive symbol design on these plastic buttons. Don't have the same grip, but they do have points that you can get your thumb onto. All right, but these modules inside are so similar that it's pretty much the exact same thing, right? And so when we go through the modes, I'm gonna have to hold these at kind of an angle, but you go through the modes, same beep. You see how it changed? And now this is, you can record your waypoints. It will record your altitude when you're hiking, because these are hiking watches. And I wore this watch to Polodoro Canyon, tested it out there going up Lighthouse Rock. I thought it was fantastic in terms of functionality, but the wings were tearing my arm hair and it didn't fit me that well. I had it on the last notch, and so because of my wrist size, it wasn't that comfortable. And this one I wore to Caprock Canyon in Quitaquee, Texas, and we went up the John Haynes Ridge. And I didn't use these recording functions correctly, okay, in terms of the altitude. But this is what this module does. You can record your altitude, so you can look at your ascent and descent as you're hiking. And pressing the mode again, we get the stopwatch, and it's the same thing where it's I believe a 24-hour stopwatch, local time on the bottom. It goes down to tenths of a second. Next we have the timer, 24-hour timers. You know, the timers go up to 24 hours, and we have the time at the bottom, both watches. See, it's the exact same thing. Alarms. So I think it's 4 alarms, 1 snooze alarm, and then the hourly chime. And then your world time. So right now I have the second time zone set to Mountain Time Zone on the Mudman, and this one is set to Zulu time, Universal Time Code. And this is when the watch last received time sync. So both of these synced the time last night, starting at midnight. And, you know, I'm over here in West Texas, and the multiband 6 tower is in Colorado. So it's only 600 miles away. Picks it up beautifully every night, unless I'm in a truck or the doghouse of my pump, and then that metal kind of interferes with the signal. But they kind of on outside of a truck, picks it up beautifully. So the time on both of these is synced. Now we're back to the main time screen, where you can see that the seconds are right there together. So that these times are the exact same. And I'm going to turn these watches this way to show you that, you know, you can scroll through the same information at the top of the screen from the main time zone. You know, day of the week, date, which is the month and the day of the month, and a graph of the barometer. And both of these haven't got really good readings because I was driving around. Now, I'll point out that the ProTrek has a little bit of a backstop to give some contrast, some differentiation for this graph on the top, and that's not on the Mudman. So it's just those subtle differences between these watches. But if you want to go to compass, the top right button on either watch will bring you to the compass. And the Mudman has this duplex display with 3 rays pointing north and 1 ray each pointing east, west, and south. And the ProTrek takes a different approach, where along the perimeter are little notches along the perimeter that accomplish the same thing. So the PRW does not have a duplex display, and that's part of the reason why it's more legible. And honestly, I like the duplex display. I mean, it looks cool, but all it does is that you use it in compass mode, and then in barometer mode, there's a ray that will show you your offset for the barometer, but that's it. So those 2 features of the duplex display is all you have, and the downside is legibility. I mean, if Casio really wanted that duplex display, because some people like it, it does make the compass more useful. But I wish that it did more. I wish that in altimeter that they'd use the duplex. I wish that in the main time they'd use the duplex. I mean, it would be cool if you had like the seconds hand ticking around on that duplex. You know, the Casio loves their little animations. They're missing out. That would have been a really cool second hand. And, you know, we can just dream of other ways that Casio could have used that duplex. to you know, kind of soften the blow of that poor legibility. But these notches around the perimeter, I think that on ensuing models of the Casio ProTreks, that they do more. I think that they tick around kind of like the AE 1500 to mark off seconds. I'm not sure because, you know, those ProTreks aren't very common in the United States. I didn't even know ProTreks existed till a couple years ago. And I think that if you were going, like, I've never seen it in a store. I think that, you know, only stores like REI or L Bean might carry the ProTrek. That it's a hiking, like the ProTrek line is for outdoorsmen and hikers. There's like a fishing version of the ProTrek, and there's some that have like that are specifically for mountain climbers. Oh, and speaking of that, I believe that this watch has low temperature capabilities. But anyways, we'll go through the other last two functions, which is the barometer. So both of these watches are on barometer. And for some reason, maybe someone as a prank, I don't know, put this in the metric system. Oh, I know what happened. The battery died in this because I had it for so long in my bag, in this G-Shock bag. The battery died. And so I just charged it up yesterday, putting it in the windowsill. And so when I came back, I guess it's on the metric system. And then the bottom right button is for the altimeter. All right. And so both of these have the sunrise and sunset. Both of them you have to manually enter your latitude and longitude to get accurate readings for the almanac. And you know, you set them the exact same way. You hold down the bottom right button, go back to the main time, and multi-band 6. So I mean, like, this is where the sensor is for the Mudman, and this is where the sensor is for the ProTrek. And so you can see that you know, it's the same module, and this has the rotating bezel. And I really don't know why, like, every watch with a compass doesn't have a rotating bezel. This bezel doesn't click, but it rotates, so that really helps with orientation. So this could be a good option for a budget-minded outdoorsman who would actually use the compass and the various outdoors features. And this is a good watch for someone who has a really extreme vocation or hobby where you know, I work in an oil field, so I'm subjected to my watches are subjected to a lot of abuse. And so I find this, you know, $380 to be worth it because you know, the watch breaking is not a problem. I mean, if the Mudman were to be hit hard enough to break the watch, I'd be much more worried about my wrist. You know what I mean? And so I got another comment about Sean Flaherty was pointing out in my last video where I compared the Mudman to the Casio AE 1500. Let me get that one out of the bag. He was pointing out that the ProTreks have big numbers, right? So those of us who love G-Shocks, we're just waiting for Casio to make that watch that took the ProTrek module. And unfortunately, the numbers, though they're big on the Mudman, just aren't nearly as thick as on the PRW-3500, or as thick as just this regular Casio AE 1500, $22, right? So among these three, which would you choose? $22 AE 1500. You know, let's call this $200, link below, for the Casio ProTrek PRW-3500, or $380 for the Mudman GW-9500. Which one would you get of these three? Leave your answers below. And that's it, gentlemen. If there's any questions, you know, leave it in the comments. Any other observations you'd like to make, feel free. Oh, for big wristers. Big wristers, this is a much bigger band than the PRW. Okay? This band, I'm going to have to sell this watch. I'm thinking of maybe, selling it to my brother or giving it to him for Christmas. Selling it to someone, or if I can't, giving it to my brother for Christmas, because, like, it doesn't fit me. Like, I have it on the last notch, and like the keeper can't hold the band on in the last notch, and so it just pops out all the time, and this tab on the band is bagging out the keeper. Okay, and the band on the Mudman is much thicker, much beefier. The wings don't grab hair as bad because they're kind of like shaped differently. They're much beefier wings. And it's a metal buckle on both watches, which is good, but this is a double tang buckle. And the keeper is plastic on the Mudman, as well as the PRW-3500. But this, I've kind of bagged this out. Like I said, look, there's like a tab where they expect the to hold the keeper from falling down. Anyways, gentlemen, I have to go. Thanks for watching. I'm Jim Kincaid. Hello?